Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Hi. They might be able to hear like the very faint dripping noise in the background.
Yeah, it's a rainy Wednesday as when we're recording this.
I have like a metal plate like at the base of my window, but it's kind of curved where it meets the ground. And so the water hits it like it's hitting a tin roof.
Does that annoy you when you sleep?
Oh, sure does. But, I have 3 different gadgets that whir so that I can have white noise and go to sleep.
I'm not kidding. Wear earplugs. And
do you want to actually
you also
know the truth?
Wear a shirt over your head?
Thanks for outing me. I'm now going to tell you my sleep routine because you didn't.
I've heard this many times.
No, I'm telling that.
I know. I'm telling you. I know this because I've heard it many times because you've had trouble sleeping.
Okay, so historically, I actually only slept with like a fan going, like a floor fan, because I find that
you slept with a fan in your room since college.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I always had like one source of white noise, which was my floor fan, because they make better noise than an overhead fan. Like white noise wise, you can't beat it.
Okay.
And then earplugs.
Specific with the fan type here.
Earplugs, and then like an eye mask, which is a fancy word for a black t-shirt I put on my head. And I don't want you to think it's like I'm putting a bag over my head. I'm literally like draping it over my face, my eyes, not my mouth.
What do you have against actual eye masks?
I don't like the elastic that goes around your head.
Okay.
I also think they shift like
more than a shirt.
Yeah, because like there's more surface area with this shirt.
I don't know about this. It's
also
attached to your face.
Okay, but it does fall off. I mean, it is what it is. But I like it, and also it's a tank top.
Rachel
is
the
not
most
a t-shirt.
Finicky sleeper that I've heard of.
Also, it's just like I've been using this same tank top. I wash it very regularly.
Thank you for clarifying.
For like years and years, and so it's just the sleep thing. It's just the thing, okay? And
Do you ever wear it?
No, it has holes in it.
You could get a new sleep shirt. Just for
I have backup ones. I have backup tank tops that I'll use if that one's in the laundry that I do sometimes wear, but that has to be black. So for the maximum,
very particular.
Yeah, but since I'm in my new place since last summer, there's more noise because I have an upstairs neighbor and he has heard from me, and then he was pretty quiet after that. But I then put my air filter in my room and I got that cranked up and my floor fan. And I bought a white noise machine. And there's one in each of, not all 4 corners. My bed's in one of the corners. And then the other 3 corners have a white noise source. So there's almost 360 surround sound white noise. And I have an earplug, but a singular earplug. Because I always... Okay. My ear that is on the pillow doesn't need the earplug.
Because are you a side sleeper, I guess?
You know that about me.
I mean, I guess, but I don't.
Yes, I'm a side sleeper. I physically don't understand people who can fall asleep any other way. Sometimes I will wake up like on my back, but I can't fall asleep that way. I don't understand people who can. So
this is very high maintenance.
Yeah.
You realize.
Okay, but I need to explain the one earplug thing. So I tested it, and it's weird. Like when I had 2 earplugs in, I could actually hear my neighbor walking around more than when I just had one. Because what was happening is it was blocking out my white noise, but it wasn't blocking out the like thuds. You know what I mean?
So not having it blocks it out better? I don't know.
Yes, because what happens is that you can hear more of the white noise and the white noise blocks out the thuds. Listen, this is a freaking science. I have it down.
I mean,
okay. I also take 3.
You couldn't explain it in like a physics context, but I guess you can explain it from an experiential context.
I also take 3 different sleep supplements before all of this happens. And I still don't always sleep well. Like, this is what one has to do. So be grateful that your basic ass can just get in bed and literally just close your eyes and 5 minutes later you're asleep and nothing else has to happen.
No, that's it.
Well, that's my life. Okay.
That's one of the ways that you are highly sensitive. We're highly sensitive in different ways.
Incredibly.
Sleep is not. I can go
sensitive.
Unconscious in about 3 minutes.
I would be a whole new person. And I think that the universe knows that and is holding me back because I could be an unstoppable force if I were sleeping 8 hours a night every night consistently. I would just have too much power and the universe is trying to
balance out the power of the universe.
There needs to be balance in the force. Wow. So yeah. Well, you brought it up. And so then I had to defend myself, which actually really just made me sound incredibly high maintenance and very fun.
Oh, and anyone who heard one of our previous episodes about Rachel and traveling, now this might explain a little bit about why traveling is not super easy for Rachel. One of many reasons, but sleeping is one of the big ones.
There are so many more on this maybe at some other point, but there are so many dudes in like the dating world, like on dating apps and stuff, who are like, I'm just looking for someone to like be a travel buddy or like, let's go on spontaneous adventures together. And I'm like, nope.
I got to bring 3 sound machines. I got to bring my sleep t-shirt and my 1 earplug.
Spontaneity is dumb. And
my floor
overrated.
Fan and all of it.
Oh, in college, I brought my own pillows and my big ass floor fan to my boyfriend's apartment whenever I stayed over there because I had to, and my earplugs and everything, but that's easy. You just throw that in a bag. But I like put my fucking floor fan in my trunk of my car and hauled it into his place every time. And his roommates always laughed at me and I didn't give a shit because they were like drinking and listening to music out there. I can't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I also just don't like sharing. I don't like sharing beds with other people for all of these reasons too, because it's hard to sleep with another freaking person there, which all of this might go a long way into explaining why I'm alone and might forever be so. Anyway. So.
Okay. Well, that was a tangent into all of the many facets.
You got yourself into it. And then you had to sit with the consequences of your actions.
We're just asking you if you could hear a dripping noise.
Well, I guess I started that. But
okay.
You made it about me.
I brought up the t-shirt.
You made it about me. Okay. I wanted to read a rating and a review. Well, I can't.
This is a Dear Krachel. Eventually, we're going to get into Dear Krachel questions.
Whatever.
I promise. But we have one more thing we want to share.
Well, I just like to read ratings and reviews sometimes, and this one was a nice one. I mean, they're all nice. No one's ever left us a bad one.
No.
This one's from someone named Bella Blue on Apple Podcasts. She says, "Thank you, Krachel. I started listening to this podcast years back, and for some reason lost track of it as the years went on. Over the past couple of months, I've been in a deep funk in my career, depressed and uninspired. I then rediscovered this gem of a podcast. I fell in love with Kristen and Rachel's refreshing outlooks and spunky attitude and cannot get enough. This podcast genuinely gets me through my tedious workday and has inspired me to follow my intuition to guide me. Thank you, Krachel, for being the light at the end of the tunnel."
Oh, I love that.
Thank you, Bella.
I love how she's referencing one of our podcasts in her review about the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. Well, we also kind of say that in our intro too.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
if our podcast can help you get through a tedious workday, we're doing something right.
Or help you not be depressed.
Definitely
that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think that makes up for how high maintenance I am.
Sure. I don't think there's a correlation there, but we can make one if you want to.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let's get into some Dear Krachel questions. We have 3 today. We're going to hit on some different topics, actually. All right. Let's get into question 1. Dear Krachel, what do you do when you seem to be having a string of bad luck? Not really tragic luck, like a death or a global pandemic, but just a whole lot of annoying things when it seems the whole world is against you. In a short amount of time, I got a parking fine, found out that I have a big tax bill because of starting a new job in the middle of the financial year, had 2 miscommunications with friends, one of which I know has left one of my friends annoyed with me, even though it was a genuine misunderstanding. Then I've had all these roadblocks trying to find a goddamn accountant who can help me with my tax bill. And block after block. This one made an obvious mistake. And this one charges $200 an hour. And this one has an attitude. And I don't really feel comfortable with him. Like, what the hell? It makes me want to wrap myself up in bubble wrap and not leave the house. After 2020, these things shouldn't get me down, but they do. Any help? And this is from Murphy's Law.
I don't actually agree that after 2020, things shouldn't get me down. Like little things shouldn't get me down. It might actually be like, they get me down more because I haven't recovered.
I think we've all been so worn down that you might have a shorter fuse than you ordinarily would have. So that's normal, first of all.
You're never going to get over being a human who gets perturbed by minor annoyances.
Yeah, that's okay. Especially when it feels like they're all happening simultaneously. That's freaking annoying.
So, okay, let me start out by saying I don't believe in bad luck.
Explain.
I don't really believe in luck.
Mm-hmm. But still explain.
Okay. Period. Luck implies that everything is just like super random, and that also that the universe can be somewhat cruel or something. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that sucks to be you, huh? Look at her struggling and tripping on her face and having to pay a $200 tax accountant. I don't think of it that way. The way that I understand it, this isn't me, this is just what I have learned in my years of spiritual inquiry, is that you like attracts like. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's like a law of physics. It's like gravity. You don't have to even believe in it to be subject to the laws of gravity. You don't have to believe in how the universe operates to be subject to the idea that what you put out, you attract. That's just kind of how it works. So if you happen to get on a minor annoyance frequency, guess what happens? You kind of become a magnet for more minor annoyances. So it's not actually random. It's not like, oh my God, can you believe all these random things happened? It's like, no, it actually is happening because you got on a minor annoyance frequency.
It's all about momentum. And whatever we all know this experience that this person is talking about. And even on a smaller scale, you know the days when you wake up and I don't know if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know if you had a weird dream.
Or like you woke up with a big crick in your neck like you did the other day.
God, the other day I slept wrong. I felt like such an old woman. I was like hobbling around the house, putting a heating pad on my shoulder. Yeah, so sometimes you just wake up and you're just like, ugh, just in a mood or in a funk. And you know how those days go. They don't go great.
They don't usually
They don't go great. You start out with some momentum and it so builds, like that snowball effect of it just... It slides down the hill and it's get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it feels like everything is out to get you. Then it really does feel like the world is out to get you. This is we all have experienced this. And I don't want to put blame on anyone, but we do contribute to that momentum by paying attention to more annoying things. Oh, and then that's another annoying thing. And look at that other annoying thing. And then everything starts to feel more and more and more annoying.
Right.
And at some point, all you can see is the annoying stuff. It's almost like these blinders are put on your face where everything that's not annoying, you can't even perceive it.
Yeah, and then you also are literally you're magnetizing it to you because
it's all you're paying attention to.
Because it's all you're paying attention to.
Right. So this is a normal experience. Don't feel like you're doing it wrong. I don't want to shame you by any means by feeling like you might be contributing to this. Because again, we do this in a good way too. Sometimes you wake up and you're excited about something, and then it feels like everything is just smooth and everything happens with ease. And like those are wonderful days. And you can start that good momentum too. But it is all about what momentum do you kick off, and then what momentum do you kind of keep pushing to get bigger and bigger. So what I would suggest is, even though it feels like a lot of stuff is super annoying and overly challenging, I just don't believe every single thing in your life is that way right now.
No.
There are some things that are going just fine, very smoothly.
I am
going
sure.
Well.
I know that there are things in Murphy's life that are going well.
Yeah.
And it's just easy to pay attention to the things that aren't going well when they seem to be piling up.
Exactly. So it's going to take conscious effort because
you want to
your
get off
brain,
this frequency.
your brain wants to keep going down where the momentum is going. It wants to follow that all the way through to the big crashing end at the bottom. You have to divert your attention with a lot of conscientiousness onto, you know what? Not everything's so bad. I know this is annoying, but there's some other things that are actually quite nice in my life right now. If I try to pay attention to those things, you just get a more balanced view of what's really happening in your life. I'm not saying ignore the annoying things or pretend like they're not happening. That's just denial. That's what I'm talking about. But if you can zoom out a little bit, it helps to be like, that's annoying, but there's plenty of other things going well. So I don't have to fixate on that and amplify it.
You're making it sound like, and this is an option, but I just don't think he, whatever, has to do this. Like, make a gratitude list and focus on all the other things that are going well. I'm just like, turn your attention to something else. Period.
Sometimes that's all you really have the capacity to do. If you're too far gone with the momentum, looking at good things might actually annoy you more. And now you're just more annoying.
Go watch a Netflix show that brings you joy or something.
Take a nap.
That's also a great way to stop negative momentum.
Really, what we're trying to do is do a reset. And if you can do a reset by paying attention to things that feel better, that might work. Sometimes you have to pay attention to things that feel neutral, but are just different.
Just a pause. The momentum. Not even trying to get it moving in the opposite direction. Just pausing the negative momentum can be enough to help divert you. I do think it
depends a little bit like how fast the momentum is going.
How far gone you are.
If you're at the beginning and you're like, a couple of annoying things have happened, but you know what? I'm not going to let it take me down. I'm going to look at some other good stuff that's going on and balance out my emotional state here. Great. Sometimes if you're too far gone, Murphy's Law might be too far gone. That's okay. You might just be like basking in the annoyance, in which case trying to look at positive things is going to make you more annoyed. But maybe go read a book, go watch a show, call a friend and hear about their annoying problems. That sometimes makes you feel so much better about your own stuff, to just go into someone else's life for 20 minutes on the phone. Mm-hmm. Reset. Yeah, this won't last forever.
Don't spend the whole time on the phone bitching about everything that's not going well.
No, listen to their stuff.
You're just affirming, again, everything that's not going well. So, the story you tell yourself about what's happening is super powerful. Mm-hmm. So if you've been telling this story about how many annoying things are happening, and then you told us this story about how many annoying things are happening, you've been affirming this story. So, you might need to switch up your narrative a little bit.
Also, just know these things do end. Like these cycles end. You're not going to get stuck in this annoying vibration indefinitely. And I would notice when this happens in the opposite direction. I think we're much more attuned to when we get on a negative downward spiral, but it can work in reverse. And so maybe pay attention to those and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. How do I do more of that once I get back to neutral?
One other thing is that, again, bad luck implies that there's something going wrong here. And when you really zoom out, I know that your experience of it feels negative, which is valid, understandable. And sometimes the universe just reroutes you in a bumpy way. Mm-hmm. So how do you know that this is all quote unquote wrong, is what I'm saying. Yeah, it might be annoying, it might be frustrating, but it might actually be, weirdly, the path of least resistance to try to get you where you ultimately need to be. Mm-hmm. So maybe even question the narrative of quote unquote bad applying to this.
It might be an uncomfortable path, but you might ultimately realize, oh, all of these tax accountants didn't work out because
I found this other one who's great.
Who knows? But it might make sense in the long run.
I'm sure it will. If you wait for enough hindsight, it'll probably make sense. Mm-hmm. So it might not even be bad. Mm-hmm.
But it's okay for now to just kind of grip on and ride it out and try to pay attention to some other things along the way.
Okay. Number 2. Dear Krachel, I grew up with an enmeshed, codependent mom, and the impact of that upbringing continues to haunt me in adulthood. I moved out of state and tuned her out, but I've realized that this hasn't been effective because I haven't actually stood up for myself and set firm boundaries. I'm just being avoidant and afraid to confront her. Each time I attempt to set a boundary, she's always ready to deny, gaslight, use my own words against me, and top off the conversation with a guilt trip. It's so hard to stand firmly in my worth when she does this. I'm still running on the old Irish Catholic programming of mother knows best and don't disobey me. Do you have any strategies for finding the courage to stand up to a toxic parent? You always have solid advice on this topic, so I'd be grateful for your feedback. Thanks. A gal with mama trauma. What is it with, we've had a number of people lately with shitty parents write to us.
We have.
And thank you for trusting us with your shitty parent.
I know.
This is a hard one.
Deep rooted stuff. So thank you for, it's pretty vulnerable, I know, to share that sort of thing. And I want to say,
sucks so hard.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it because I wanted to just apologize on behalf of that experience.
And I feel bad for her mom because you don't become an enmeshed codependent, like needy toddler of a parent, which she is, unless you have trauma of your own. Mm-hmm. So maybe first things first, a gal with mama trauma. I'm gonna call you gal, like Gal Gadot. Maybe first things first, you got to see your mom that way. You got to see your mom not as your mom or as an adult, but as a traumatized child. Okay? Because that's going to help you a lot when it comes to getting triggered by her and when it comes to setting boundaries with her. She's not capable, like most traumatized children, of having a logical, reasonable conversation. So much of what you want to do, you're not going to be able to do because she's not capable of receiving it or hearing it. Mm-hmm. You have to think of her like that because it helps us have empathy for her, but it also helps us understand what we can and cannot approach her with because she just does not have the capacity for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can have that compassion. And it does not make this parenting style correct.
Of course
not. It does not make her gaslighting you and making you feel like you can't stand up for yourself and all. I mean, that stifling is not acceptable. It's understandable where she comes from, but it's not acceptable. So I feel like you're taking a big step in the right direction here, but we need to take it a little further. So what I like about your question is that you're sharing that you're trying to set boundaries. And you're clear about that.
Tried to tune her out.
And what I think needs to happen is less about speaking your boundaries, like, mother, this is a boundary that I'm setting. And clearly what you just said is that conversation gets derailed. You end up, she makes you feel bad about yourself. She guilts you. She makes you feel gaslit, all of that.
You're trying to vocalize your boundaries with conversation, and she's not capable of having an adult conversation.
So you need to just act your boundaries. You need to put up the boundaries. When she steps over them, then there needs to be a consequence. But you don't have to alert her to these are the boundaries. That's not what you do with children. You like, and if we're thinking of her as a hurt child, because that's really where this emotional response is coming from, is she's like hurt child in adult form. Mm-hmm. Then they have to learn by trying something and getting reprimanded or getting a consequence of some kind. When you try to logic with them, it just devolves. This is not going to get you what you ultimately... And I understand this because I've done a version of this many, many times in the past where it feels like speaking the boundary is the same thing as enforcing the boundary.
And standing up for yourself, right? Like being vocal, we often see that as one and the same, right?
Yeah.
Standing up for yourself. You have to speak your truth. And I'm not saying you're going to be able to get away with never talking to your mom, but I think that we have to do less explaining of the boundary and more just like live in the boundary, which is not avoidant. I think you think that's avoidant. And you don't want to be avoidant. I don't think it is.
Avoidant would be not speaking the boundary, but then also not enforcing the boundary. That would just be avoiding it all and enabling this bad behavior and this unhealthy relationship.
So can we maybe we should try to get some examples up in here.
Yeah. So
like, what if her mom doesn't respect her time boundaries? Like she'll call her at any old hour and like demand to talk and like keep calling her or something like that.
Let's say you want to have a boundary of, Mom, I don't pick up the phone after 9 p.m.
And I only talk to you once a week.
Yeah.
That's your boundary.
We have a call. We check in call once a week.
So you don't have to say that. You can just never answer the phone after 9 p.m. and you only answer the phone once a week. That's literally it. You don't have to say the boundary.
Because what's going to happen is if you say, Mom, this is a new boundary that I am setting and we're only going to talk once a week.
Oh my God.
Then she'll talk you out of it. She'll make you feel so bad about
it. Throw a tantrum. Because that's what toddlers do when you set boundaries for them. They throw tantrums.
Exactly. And then you're going to be so exhausted by the whole experience that you won't even have the inner fortitude to then enforce the boundary.
Yep.
So you have to start living the boundary first. And what you can set, if she's calling and, at some point she is going to throw the tantrum. If you set a boundary, try to enforce the boundary, there is going to still be a tantrum.
I mean, she's going to do tantrums no matter what. It's just, you don't have to hear it because you're not telling her about it first.
Right.
She's having the tantrum when you're not answering the phone and you don't have to hear it. It's blissful.
Right. Right. And at some point you can say, if there's a real emergency, Mom, please leave me a voicemail or please send me a text if I'm not able to answer the phone.
Yeah. And then if she lies and pretends like it's an emergency and you call her back,
consequence.
Guess what? You're like, this is not an emergency. I will talk to you next week. Bye. Like, yep.
It takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage to enforce boundaries. Setting boundaries is one thing. That's hard enough. Enforcing boundaries is where it's going to take all of your inner reserves. So I also want to ask, who else in your life can you lean on to get some support? Like, do you have a spouse? Do you have a good friend? Do you have a sister or a brother? Someone who you can go to and say, Mom is really pushing my boundaries right now. And I'm losing some of my inner resolve.
Yeah.
Please remind me of why this is important. So if she's not able to be a strong, like healthy resource and connection for you,
clearly
lean on the people who are. We all wanted to be able to be our parents in those situations, but sometimes they can't be that person for us. In fact, they're often the ones who are pushing our buttons and we need other people to help us stand up to them. So this is going to be more about action than about speaking up.
And when you have to speak up, she's never going to be able to get away with not speaking up. Her mom's going to be like, are you coming home for the family reunion? And you're going to be like, no. And she's going to be like, why? And you're going to have to just be clear and say, I'm not available. You could literally just say that if you wanted to. The less explaining you do, the better.
That's where this is going to often go off the rails, is when you have to defend your boundaries. Your boundaries are not something you have to explain.
No
or
adult
defend.
ever has to explain their boundaries to the 2-year-old having the tantrum.
No.
You never have to explain yourself to the 2-year-old having the tantrum. They're not going to get it. They don't want to hear it. They think you're dumb.
You're not like,
you're mean.
Oh, really? We shouldn't have this lollipop right now because you're going to spoil your dinner and we really need to. And then it'll give you a sugar rush and then you won't have a nap. You don't need to explain all that to the 2-year-old.
They don't care.
You just say, no lollipop right now.
And then they have a tantrum and you let it happen.
And you say, okay. All right. Come to me when you've cried it out.
Our friend has a 3.5-year-old and I love hearing the things that the 3.5-year-old says when she's angry.
Oh, it's awful.
It's
so manipulative.
The other day, let me try to remember what she said the other day. She said, and this was because her mother wanted her to put on pants. And it was,
how unreasonable.
And it was like, you are the meanest mommy. You broke my heart into a million pieces and then stomped on them.
Wow.
Or like threw them away. I mean, she was very it was very creative. Like, you gotta give it to her. It was
so manipulative.
It was so manipulative. Yeah. And then
it's not because
she doesn't want to wear pants. I mean,
broke my heart into a million pieces.
You're the meanest mommy ever.
Wow.
And yeah, you just break my heart. And
so imagine trying to explain why
we must wear pants to daycare.
To that child.
No, she doesn't give a shit. Nor does your mom. And like, as far as the Catholic programming, the mother knows best and don't disobey me. This is the same theme we've had with one of the last episodes. I will link to some like parental drama episodes.
We've had several.
Really,
you're not
all Dear
alone.
Krachel lately.
I hope that's kind of validating. You're not the only one struggling with this.
But I think in the last one where we answered like a toxic parent question, it's the same theme. It's I think this is how you deal with toxic parents. Is you're the parent now.
Well, you're the parent both to yourself and to the parent.
You're not responsible for them the way a parent is.
No, but you are responsible for setting boundaries like you do with a child.
Yes, but you are the parental figure now. You are the adult figure now. Just because someone gave birth to you and is 30 years older than you does not make them the parental figure when you are an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. What makes someone a parental figure are their qualities and their values. Like, are they reasonable? Are they
supportive?
A good listener?
Are they encouraging?
Are they
loving?
Right. Can they put their issues aside and not take everything you say and make it about them? Because your mom can't do any of that. She's not actually acting like an adult. She is acting like a toddler, which means you have to treat her like one.
So
she's not your mom.
Mother knows best. That's you in this scenario.
Yeah, you know best.
You're a better mother figure to yourself in this scenario. And in some ways, you have to be the parent in the relationship with your mother in terms of not enabling bad behavior, which is very hard. And I'm really sorry that you're in this situation. And one of the things I know we've talked about in other episodes with people who have had challenging, to say the least, parent situations is you have to find your own family. You have to go create your own family.
Yeah.
Of people who can have healthy, supportive, balanced relationships with you.
Yep. You can make your own family if your family of origin sucks.
Okay, this last question is actually a good tie-in to the question we just answered.
I agree.
It's also about
that's why I ordered them this way when I made our little list.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because you're going to see a theme here.
Yeah.
Okay, Dear Krachel, I've been in the dating world for a while now. In the past, I haven't done a good job of advocating for myself and letting guys, or anyone really, know my needs. So I'm trying to do a better job of that now. So when I'm chatting with new guys, I try to make it clear what my needs are. I expect steady communication. I don't like it when I don't hear from you for days on end, that sort of thing. But a friend recently told me I'm overdoing it, and now I'm doubting myself. When is it appropriate to ask someone to meet your needs, and when is it not okay? And that is from Rory.
I have a very strong opinion about this. Okay, Rory. Your friend is dead on right. You're overdoing it. Here's why. If you've just met a guy and you literally are just maybe messaging on Hinge or something, or maybe you've gone out on one date and they're not messaging you back frequently, or maybe they're not a great texter or something, and like it's kind of sporadic when you hear from them, I understand the impulse to want to be like, I'm going to react to my past history of not standing up for myself by being independent and strong and telling people what I need, and that's good for me and good practice. Except what you're doing is inadvertently painting red flags green and continuing on with an interaction when all you need, when the lack of communication is the message. It's this person is probably not a good fit for you and is not that into you. Move on. Mm-hmm. You can't tell someone to meet your needs if you don't know them yet.
You're not in an established relationship.
You don't have a relationship with them.
They have no, like, they have no, like, need to meet your needs at this point.
I mean,
you're still figuring each other out.
Up front, someone's inability to meet your need is a blessing because it tells you everything you need to know about whether or not you want to hang out with them further.
I understand this, especially since the way she started out the question, saying, I used to struggle with this. I used to struggle with speaking up. I have a history of that being a challenge for me. We do this in all kinds of contexts. I have a similar...
You mean we overdo it because we're trying to make up for our past transgressions?
Right. I was just going to say, I have a similar past experience of not speaking up, and then you overcorrect. So you're like, I know I'm self-aware enough to know that I have this pattern of not speaking up enough. So here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to speak up early and often
to people who are actually, it would be so much better if I gave them a chance to prove whether or not they deserve to be in my sphere.
Right. So this is not really about you speaking up. This is about you discerning,
yes,
who is this person, and then determining, are they able to meet my needs? Do they want to meet my needs? Are they even perceptive enough? And then later on, as someone has built trust with you, you don't expect people who you have zero trust or rapport built up with to meet your needs.
In fact, I think expecting people you don't have trust with, don't have a relationship with, don't have rapport with to meet your needs is needy and codependent. Like, you don't get to have those expectations of people you don't know and don't have relationships with.
Those things come along with, like, the more you build a friendship, the more you build a romantic relationship, the more you learn about each other, trust each other. Now you can and should expect each other to meet some of your needs. I mean, nobody's job is to meet all your needs. That's not the point.
Right.
But there's certain things that are going to be important to you that you want to communicate. But that's not where you start. That's what you build on.
No, but people think that's where they start because that's what they understand is healthy. But you don't get to skip to healthy relationship. You have to first discern if someone is worthy of being in a relationship with you in the first place.
Yeah, part of this, I'm like, what this sounds like to me is, she's chatting with some guy, maybe chatting on an app or maybe texting or whatever that looks like. And he's not being super responsive. And you saying, one of my needs is I need clear communication. That's essentially you saying, I need you to be more interested in me. well, wait. We're figuring out if we are interested in each other in the first place.
Right. And
I don't demand that of you. We're figuring that out simultaneously.
Yes. And he's actually giving you a lot of information. A, he's not that interested in you. B, you shouldn't be that interested in him if he's that uncommunicative. It's actually just like a win-win. Let it go and move on.
So there is a time and place to speak up for your needs.
Totally.
Absolutely.
When you have an established relationship with someone.
Yes.
Let's refer back to the previous question. She has an established relationship with her mom, a gal with mama trauma. So it's not necessarily always that just because you have a relationship with someone.
Now you can expect them.
But the trust. A gal with mama trauma does not have trust with her mom because her mom can't be trusted to have a normal reaction to anything. She's going to gaslight. She's going to manipulate. She's a toddler in a human body. Can't trust her. So you can't ask her to meet your needs. Trust, respect. Someone who has done their emotional labor and work and isn't going to, again, foist it all on you. These are people you can reasonably ask for your needs to be met, but you have to have a foundation with them before you can ask someone to meet your needs.
Yeah. And again, they have to be willing and able. So you don't know that when you don't have an established relationship. So you can't expect that of that person. And even if you do, they may or may not be willing and or able to meet your needs, in which case you still need to go elsewhere.
Yep.
So it could be family that you'd like to be able to meet your needs. You'd like to have that kind of relationship with your parent or with someone that you're dating, but maybe they can't meet certain needs. I wrote a blog a while back about stop going to the hardware store for milk. Essentially, stop going to people trying to get needs met from those people when they are not interested or able to do that for you.
I have a blog about
miserable.
I'll link to this too. Torturing yourself with other people's potential, where we actually I go into a little bit more detail of like how to recognize whether someone has the capacity to change and to be someone who can you can have a trusting relationship with. So maybe check that out too. Because right now, I think you're actually going to shoot yourself in the foot if you ask people to meet your needs who have not proven themselves to you. Let them prove whether or not they're any good and worth hanging around. They're not communicating. They're doing you a favor. They're giving you a real clear message. This isn't right. Move on. And then, if you have a relationship with someone and after 6 months, they're not as communicative as you would like, maybe you can ask for, I honestly think 6 months in, if someone's not communicating with you that well, it should be easy 6 months in. You know what I mean? It should still be pretty easy.
I mean, I guess you could say, I prefer more texting versus whatever, because I'm not always able to take a phone call in the middle of the day. I guess you could be more specific about the context of it or how.
I mean, if I were dating someone and 6 months in, I had to be clear about, no, my need is to be in bed by 9 p.m.
Sure.
You need to respect that, or you need to GTFO of my experience. See the beginning of this podcast for more information.
Right. You could set boundaries around communication or whatever.
Or asking them to be like, no, you got to respect my needs. You can't ask me to be out at 11 p.m. That's a non-starter for me. That kind of thing. But yeah, I can't ask someone who I've literally just texting with, like on Hinge or something.
Can you talk to me more and be more interested in communicating?
Or like, I need you to not ask me out after 11 p.m. And he's like, do I even want to ask you out? And or like, wow, you sound like a real fun time. Next, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Right? Like, you can't ask people to meet your needs at that point. You just can't. All right, I hope this helps, Rory. And I also hope it doesn't offend you.
No, because I've been there personally. Okay. I know the overcorrecting feeling. And it's clear progress. We're just going to find the happy medium in the middle of like not speaking up enough, but then speaking up too much and not always the right situations. And then it's going to balance itself back out in like, okay, all right. So here's when it's worth speaking up. Here's when it's not. You have to swing that pendulum back and forth. But it is helpful to get context from other people, from your friends. Sounds like you have a good friend who's helping you get that context. Hopefully we can help enforce some of that context as well. To know, have I swung too far or am I approaching that happy medium? It's hard to know in your own head, but you're on the right track.
Okay. That's it. We'll be back next Friday with a normal person interview. Oh, it's a good story. I mean, I don't know exactly I haven't talked to her yet, but by the time you hear this, obviously, I will have talked to her. And the theme that I want to get into, we'll see if this is where we end up going, but I really want to talk to her about how your life does not have to be perfect before you get good things, before wild and unbelievable and like, oh my God, I didn't think that would ever happen to me. Things can happen when you still feel a little bit messed up. Which I find to be a great relief as someone who doesn't feel like I will ever not be messed up.
Well, who's ever gonna?
Well, but like, it's insidious.
It's true. I know. We feel like once I get this, or once I achieve this, or once I'm this weight, or once I'm this successful,
or once I have the perfect. It's more like once I have the perfect mindset, or like I'm
any of it,
not depressed or anxious. Or
once I'm living in my own house, once I've figured out this, whatever. I mean, like once I've done enough therapy,
once I'm happy all the time,
then I'll finally deserve what I want. No.
Yeah, I want to talk to her about that.
That's good. That's a good topic. All right. Okay. We'll come back Friday and hear how that goes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.